to the Capital PTBO Sports Show, an MNC podcast production, simulcast on your TV, Peterborough, Lindsay. You can visit us at the store, 370 George Street North, or online anytime at thecapitalptbo.ca. A major thank you to our good friend Brian Goldfinger of Goldfinger Personal Injury Law for making this production possible. Brian dedicates his practice exclusively on behalf of accident victims, disability claimants, and their families. He is a plaintiff personal injury lawyer through and through and doesn't accept work on behalf of insurance companies. For a free consultation, call 877-730-1777 or visit goldfingerlaw.com. That number again, 877-730-1777 or visit goldfingerlaw.com. Coming up on the show today, does Scott Rolen belong in the Baseball Hall of Fame? Do the Bills have the wrong team for their environment? And who is the greatest pure NHL goal scorer of all time? We'll release a list put out by Bodog. We'll do all of that, plus Record Machine and our Mono-y-Mono showdown, where two men enter and only one survives.
That's intense.
Or in this case, wins at trivia.
Yeah.
Gentlemen.
What's happening?
Mark Million, Producer Matty.
Yes, sir.
Thought I'd raise the volume a little bit on that.
I do feel like I don't survive every time I lose a trivia. Like, I don't feel great when I leave here.
Wears you down for the rest of the week?
Where I, on the other hand, go right home and sleep like a child.
Like he has me complaining about Norway for almost a year now. Or we're coming up to the, 1 year anniversary?
Is this episode 49? I think it is.
This is episode 49.
Wow.
Listen, the people at home don't understand the Norway context. There's going to be a few things, I think, on the episode 50. We're going to have to reset. Norway is one. Lemon Loaf is one.
Yes.
Both from episode 1.
We're going to have to both reset those, but the Norway one is harder to believe. Next week, you'll find out live.
If you're interested in supporting the show, you can check us out on Patreon, patreon.com/capitalptbo. You can get perks like store deals, exclusive interviews, and you can have your name on the wheel of Win Nothing. And we do have a familiar name that has rejoined the wheel of Win Nothing.
Yes. Back due to technicality. Sorry about that. Dara Scollard is back. Dara Scollard, you'll see him on the board. You'll see him on the blackboard and on the big board. Matty Latour, after a Brad Sinclair narrow win last week.
Yeah, really close.
We're back to 5 shares of the pie. And like Mercier said, if you want to join, patreon.com/capitalptbo. Let's spin the wheel.
The wheel is spinning with sound effects.
Oh, yeah, the sound. That's nice.
That's a new touch.
Oh, and it's Brad Sinclair by a hair again.
Back to back.
Again.
Sinclair pitches back-to-back winners. Okay. That puts him at 3 now.
One of the more famous men in Ennismore, you'd say?
I would say in his time in Ennismore, certainly, yeah.
Oh, he's not there anymore.
No, he's moved on to bigger and brighter things now. He's up northern Ontario now. He's Bancroft, Apsley. He's your realtor to the north.
Oh, good.
That's a question for a different podcast. Is who's the most famous person from Ennismore?
We're going to have a guy later. We're going to give him a shout-out to an Ennismore.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Yeah, I will. We'll put him on the show.
Can't wait for that. Again, patreon.com/capitalptbo. It'd be nice if we got to 10. If we got to 10 people.
Yeah, I'm not asking for much. Yeah.
You get perks.
For as low as $3 a month, you get your name on the board. For as much as $20 a month, you get 15% off in the store every month. You get exclusive content, and we're adding to that list. We won't tell you who's coming next, but somebody very soon. Exclusive 1-hour interviews that the first 2 were bangers.
Yeah, they were. I'm wondering if somebody who could join Patreon right now would be Bruce Boudreau.
He's got time.
Brucey's back in Hershey now.
And he's got money.
And he doesn't have an income, though.
No, he's still getting paid out. He was under contract for another 2 years.
Oh, yeah, I forgot the Canucks are paying 3 coaches now.
Little sidebar.
Travis Green.
I had an interview once with Russ Jackson, legendary quarterback in the Canadian Football League. Mm-hmm. And there was a time where he was employed as the head coach of the Toronto Argos, got fired. He said that was actually the greatest job ever because they had to pay him for like 3 or 4 years after that.
Yeah, sure.
And he's like, whatever.
Right.
It's the greatest thing that ever happened to me.
Look at Rick DiPietro. That guy's still collecting paychecks from the Islanders.
Yeah, sure. Bobby Bonilla.
Vancouver, where did we miss? Or was this always a terrible organization that's just kind of popped up once in a while and had a successful team? I don't know what's going on.
Oh, my gosh.
They fire Green. They fire Linden. Fires Linden.
Yeah.
That's
Jim Benning.
crazy. And now you got Rutherford, who has been around the league enough. And, up until this point, I didn't hear a lot about disrespect and all this kind of stuff. The way the situation was handled was crazy.
Yeah.
Like, we knew a week out that Bruce was getting fired.
Right.
I mean, Bruce was really put in not much of a tough situation.
Sure.
Brought in last year. Obviously, he wasn't the long-term prospect here, but you kind of rid the team. It's all banged up. And you're out the door, Bruce, which is part of doing business. But at the same time, there's a level of class and respect that you need to do when that's happening.
There was so many things that were strange, even right out of the gate for the Canucks team. I think if you went back and you looked at, back in the day, we would have read like the sports forecaster from the Fan and 590 or whatever. And I think you would have looked at that Canucks lineup and you would have thought they've got a pretty decent go here. They take Markstrom out the year previous. 35-year-old goaltender. They're going to go all in with Thatcher Demko. Okay, that's fine. Up front, there's plenty of firepower. Pedersen will take a smaller step, and you've got Horvat, who's had an unbelievable season, and Brock Besser and JT Miller, and there's a lot of moving parts here. Ekman Larsson on the back end, who's kind of your veteran D, with the other kid there. What's his name? Hughes. I can always get those guys confused. Who's the guy in New Jersey? Quinn Hughes.
Yeah.
So I don't think this guy is Quinn. Maybe Jack Hughes is in Vancouver.
I think it's the other way around.
Okay. Anyways.
Quinn Hughes is in Vancouver.
Yeah, let's not let the facts get in the way of a good story.
Hughes, yeah.
So you would think this should be a thing. Before long, it devolves into nonsense.
Yeah.
8-game losing streaks. You've got guys like Hughes is telling Vancouver reporters that Tanner Pearson's hand wasn't looked after properly by the team doctors. Horvat's got no control in the room, clearly. Either that or they don't respect him as the captain.
And who is JT Miller? That's had all kind of issues as well.
JT Miller has been a guy that's told plenty of stories outside of school as well. And you've had who's the guy that had the? Yeah, remember he had that press conference last year. It was just ugly. Where his dad's got Alzheimer's. The guy from Vancouver, and also terrible. So they haven't been without their flaws, but Bruce was the problem.
That was Brock Besser, I think.
Oh, was it Besser?
Yeah.
Like 20 games over 500 last year, pretty close.
Yeah.
Yep.
He's the problem. Jimmy Rutherford's not. Like, you're the captain of the ship and you've got holes the size of bowling balls in the hull of this thing.
So do we care as much if Bruce Boudreau's just not so lovable?
That is part of it.
Like, when Mike Babcock got fired, we knew that was coming for weeks.
Yeah.
But like Mike Babcock,
I think this was interesting, though, because not only did we know he was getting fired, we knew who was going to replace him. And you knew that. And Bruce has to go out there, 3 or 4 times?
Yeah.
And, but his likability certainly has something to do with it. And he was very upfront with his emotions.
Yeah.
He was losing it at press conferences. And when they gave him the nice applause, you could tell emotionally
the Bruce there it is
mattered
chance.
to him. Bruce, there it is.
Sure. He grew to love it in the end.
Here's the thing. Bruce is 68.
Yeah.
Does he get another gig anywhere?
I think, you look at the body of work. He's 68 years old. He's got one conference final with the Ducks.
Yeah.
That's
the knock on Bruce is he could not only his lifetime record in Game 7s was just ridiculous.
Yeah.
And he had those Washington teams that were winning 50 plus.
Right.
Couldn't get it done. Had most of his success, you're right, with Anaheim that one particular year where they were very close. And then had a high-priced Minnesota team that would just go out in the first round every year.
Yeah.
And weekly, 5 games.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of it for Bruce.
I think it is it for Bruce.
Bruce could be a TV personality. He's not traditionally handsome, I suppose, but he's somebody who is likable and brings an interesting perspective to the game.
I think
somebody who played.
He could be a regional broadcast guy with Minnesota. Yeah. Something like that. Or he's not on the national coverage.
I think he's from Niagara, St. Catharines. So why not Buffalo? That's
sure.
Close to home.
Bring him right in.
Interesting on the other side of it. So I think we all agree that that's it for Bruce. On the other side, Rick Tockett's the best guy.
Well,
where's Barry Trotz? Where was all that talk 8 weeks ago?
He's still renting in Toronto.
Oh, my gosh.
I don't understand the love affair with Rick Tocchet.
No kidding.
I don't get
Guy's been a coach for 6 seasons, made the playoff once, and it was the weird year, and they were like an 11th place team, and they just weeked into the qualification round. And this is somebody who was also in his past. Remember, he pleaded guilty to like gambling charges.
Oh, that's because Janet placed the bet.
And I'm just sitting there thinking,
Took the fall for Wayner.
look, Rick Tocchet, I mean, don't get me wrong. He obviously knows a lot about hockey. He was a very successful player. You know, a lot of people enjoyed watching Rick Tocchet grow up. But yeah, I'm with you that it wasn't this no-brainer, oh my God, we can get Scotty Bowman.
Yeah.
So we have to do it. Sorry, Bruce, you're out. Bowman's in.
It's Rick Tocchet.
It's Ricky Tocchet.
Does it?
And his resume isn't that great coaching-wise.
So for you, though, doesn't that tell you kind of where they are in the rebuild? Like they don't believe they're close?
Yeah,
and so they're going to bring Rick Tocchet in as kind of the go-between. And then once they start the sell-off of some of these kids or whatever it is they're going to do, a couple of years out, maybe they bring a hometown guy in. You know, I don't know which better guy you could do than Linden. You've already done him dirty once, but you bring a hometown kid in now that's going to kind of like rectify it with the fan base. And
hear me out. The Sedin twins as co-coaches.
They do everything together.
You never know which one's on the bench.
I don't actually mind that.
Producer Matty, I don't know if you can find this clip, but did you see, I know it's definitely on Awful Announcing, did you see the clip of the American coverage of the Bruce Boudreau firing?
Former Washington Capitals coach Bruce Boudreau has been fired by the Vancouver Canucks. The team announced the change Sunday, less than a week after President of Hockey Operations Jim Rutherford said major surgery was needed to fix the Canucks. Rick Tocchet was hired as Boudreau's replacement.
Oh, it hurts so much.
Get out of here.
Just when you think you're making advancements in the good old United States of America, you get this, I'm assuming, local anchor in D.C., I think is where it was.
Yeah, it was a Fox affiliate.
Canucks?
The Canucks.
Boudreau.
Rick Tocchet.
My favorite thing to come out of this is the footage is resurfaced of Bruce Boudreau's first NHL goal on Jim Rutherford.
Yeah.
Like, this is like 40 years of a grudge in the making. This goes a lot deeper than we think.
I did see that. I also didn't know that Bruce Boudreau was in Slapshot. He was an extra.
Correct. He was an extra in Slapshot. Yeah.
I didn't know
that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
A couple of pictures.
Boudreau retired. He was amongst like the top 5 AHL scorers of all time. He's a point-a-game guy in the AHL.
He also, remember when the NHL actually did something that was cool and cutting edge, and they did the 24/7 series?
Yes.
And it was the Capitals and the Penguins the first year. And Bruce caught everybody by storm because everyone liked him, and he would swear all the time like crazy.
Yeah.
And then the NHL even started like censoring it, and that's when it just got bad and boring.
Turns to crap, sure.
As of now,
But he was a superstar there.
12th all-time in American Hockey League scoring.
Good for you.
799 points in 634 games.
Yeah, Bruce.
I read he's going back to Hershey where he has some financial stake in a couple of junior teams, and he's just going to lay low for a while. But Bruce Boudreau, Vancouver, come on.
That's bad luck.
Do you even have to tell them to come on? They already know.
Unbelievable.
It's unbelievable.
I feel bad for like the social media teams that have to act excited about Rick Tocchet now.
3 events added to the NHL skills competition.
Okay.
I want to see if I get this right here because these sounded kind of crazy.
As soon as you brought this up, like pregame, we both had the exact same thought. Like 18-year-old kids now. Trevor Zegras is designing the games now for the All-Star weekend.
I mean, I like Trevor Zegras.
Oh, so do I. I mean, the kid's got more game than I'll ever have.
All right, here we go.
Let's hear it.
On Tuesday, the league announced 3 new events for the upcoming All-Star Skills Competition. Splash Shot, Pitch and Puck, and Tendy Tandem. Those are your 3 names here. Splash Shot will take place on the beach in Fort Lauderdale. 4 teams of 2 players will compete head-to-head, shooting at targets, with the winner dunking their opponents into a water tank.
Yeah.
I mean, kids will like it.
And I can appreciate this as being, because there is a push by the NHL afoot, like to go back to that. The NHL is going to go back to animated hockey games. Have you seen this? Remember when they did it for like a year where they would have like after a goal, they'd have explosions on the ice.
Oh, yeah.
Like on the screen.
They kind of do that already. Oh, like
no, it was
the
on the screen with like animated characters and
NBA
stuff.
does like the Nickelodeon games. Like
Fox,
Same
Fox
idea.
did the robots.
Draymond Green turns into SpongeBob.
Sure.
The Pitch and Puck uses a combination of hockey and golf shots. 6 players will play a par 4 on an island green.
Goodness.
If there's a tie, a longest drive competition will determine the winner. I'm not making this up. This is really going to happen.
That's what's
in Tendy Tandem, one goaltender from each division is designated as either a shooter or a netminder.
Which I didn't understand.
The shooting goaltender will attempt to hit a target from a designated mark, with his results determining how many players get to shoot for his team. The netminder from the opposing division will then face 1, 2, or 3 players, depending on the points earned by the shooting goalie.
Can we talk about the fact that Tendy Tandem sounds like the world's worst Canadian produced rom-com?
Actually, I like that. Yeah. Tendy Tandem.
That's an early Ryan Reynolds movie.
Like 2 goaltenders in the minor leagues live together and fall in love with the same woman.
I
and
kind
then
of
it's
like
like
it.
a back and forth who's going to win.
Oh, that's going to win. That's Beachcombers. I mean, that's Beachcomber material. That's
And they
Danger
go and do
Bay.
a splash shot event, and they decide who's going to date. The fastest skater, hardest shot, breakaway challenge, accuracy shooting.
Sure.
All will return.
Those are all winners.
That's all you need. I think fastest skater should be a drag race, though, not a lap. I've thought this for years. Go red line to far blue line.
I've resided to the fact that now that I'm approaching my mid-30s, that it's just not really designed for me anymore.
Yeah.
And so I'm not going to get these things, but I think those are all asinine. The goalie one, at least it is, I'm assuming, in the arena, and it's going to involve actual hockey skill one way or another versus this other crazy stuff on a beach and like.
Yeah.
Well, in Vegas, they were out on the fountain, right? Like that was the thing.
So the Vegas game, the one where they had to shoot on the island, I actually liked that, where like it lit up when you put the puck in the basket or whatever. I kind of liked it. It's different. Full marks for the NHL doing something different, because the big guy knows that the All-Star festivities for the NBA, for the NFL, and I use NBA as the number 2. NFL is horrendous. Major League Baseball is worse, which is hard to imagine.
NFL's like flag football now.
Well, it is, but you never had the guys. You never had the guys show up.
You
and
weren't
everything,
allowed to blitz.
Right?
Yep.
The NBA, at least, nobody plays D, but at least the dunk contest is still a thing, and 3-point shooting is barely a thing anymore. But I mean, it's weird. It's not traditional.
sorry.
And do I really want traditional at this point? I don't know. Do we even watch it?
But this is, and again, I don't want to sound like old man, because back in the day, maybe we just didn't have as much to watch on TV, and maybe hockey had a bigger footprint in that. But I remember sitting down and being like, yeah, I'm going to cheer for the Western Conference, or when it was North America versus the world. The world would always win the skills. The North Americans would always win the game. And I thought it was pretty cool. And again, I get the appeal, like trying to appeal to a different demo. I understand. But I also think like, I guess we're going to watch no matter what. So if it turns us off, who cares?
That's what Twitter's for.
Yeah.
I'm not watching the All-Star festivities.
Bodog. Matt, you floated this to us. I don't want to do this every week because it's going to be 3 years before OV breaks the Gretzky record. So we don't need to keep doing this. But
If he does.
Bodog put out its rankings, and I believe the clarification was the greatest pure goal scorers of all time.
Okay.
Yep. The top 10.
Here we go. Wayne 1, OV 2, Bossy 3, and then you got Espo Richard, Bobby Hull, Gordie Howe, Mario Lemieux, Brett Hull, and Guy Lafleur.
Mario at 9?
8.
Mario is at 8. Esposito at 4. I guess if you take it in historical context, like Espo's the first guy to cross the barrier to get 70.
Led the league. I think he had the record for the most times leading the league in a row in goals. I think it was 6 or 7. Here's the problem. What is the definition, or how do you define greatest pure goal scorer? What does pure goal scorer mean for you? Because in my definition of what a pure goal scorer is, I remove Wayne, Mario, and Gordie Howe from this list because all of them had over 1,000 assists. And they weren't what I would deem a pure goal scorer. A pure goal scorer to me is exactly Ovi, Brett Hull.
Yeah.
I mean, Bossy got his points and his assists, but I still classify him. It would be like you get 60 goals and 30 assists.
Yeah.
To me, you're a pure goal scorer.
I would agree with that. Like, I don't see Pavel Bure on the list.
He could be.
jeepers, look at his goals to game ratio. Like, he's in bossy territory. You know, I think if we can pull that up on the Magic Box, like, I think Bossy's like 578 and 752, and Bure's not far off.
So Bure, for goals per game in their career, minimum 200 goals. Bure is 6th.
Yeah.
Okay.
Behind Mike Bossy, Mario Lemieux at 2. I don't even know who this is. Cy Denny.
He's back in the 20s.
Yeah.
Babe Dye.
Also back then, the 40s.
And Austin Matthews at 5.
Anyone called Babe.
Yeah, for
way
sure.
back in the day.
Yeah.
And then Ovechkin's at 7, Gretzky at 8, Brett Hull, Bobby Hull, Tim Kerr.
I think 100%. I think you're absolutely
Timmy Kerr.
Sure, slot machine. Get out of here. What do you mean? Timmy was a beauty. I think you're right. I think that the automatic premise has to be a guy that dials up more goals than an assist more often than not. You know, Brett's 86 goals. I think he finished with 120 points that year. So like that's you know. But even the year that Gretz hit 92, he had
over 100 assists.
He had over 100 assists. So, I don't know. I like Pavel Bure on this list. I like Bossy on this list. I know that Bossy would have. I mean, 9 straight 50s is ridiculous.
I think Ovi is the greatest pure goal scorer ever.
Really?
Like pure in its purest sense. The one player going into a game that I thought is going to turn it around by scoring would be Mario Lemieux. I don't think he gets his due as being... Because he's always unfairly looked at as sort of Gretzky light.
Yeah.
But Mario had an 85 in there. Mario had a 69 in only 60 games. Right?
When I think of a pure goal scorer, I think about, like, this isn't the guy who's going to break the game open with a really fantastic assist. Like, he's going to walk over the blue line and put one top shelf.
Phil Kessel, I would define as a pure goal scorer.
I would agree.
He's not going to...
Austin Matthews.
Go on a huge rush and,
Yeah. I don't know. I think,
but you're going to see a lot of OVV Wayne sort of comparisons.
You're also going to see those two other guys that are super early, like Richard and Howe.
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking about guys that the first guy to break 50 goals, the first guy to get 500 goals, and Howe, just from a longevity standpoint, he had 1,000, almost 1,000 more points than he did, or assists than he did goals.
I don't want to see Maurice tonight. I want the Rocket. Remember that movie?
Sure, absolutely.
I'm going to watch that when I go home.
Roy Dupuis.
Roy Dupuis.
Anyways, Bodog. Bodog also likes to troll a little bit.
It's meant to, it's like incite riot. That's right.
Trying to think, I guess I would go Ovi, Bossy, Richard. Then Bobby Hull was, and people forget that Bobby Hull scored 50 goals and then left.
That's right.
So if he hangs around, everyone likes to do the what if game with, well, if Ovi had played the same amount of games, or if there's a few different ones of those.
Yeah,
or if Yager. Well, Bobby Hull was sort of the original one of that.
Yeah, sure.
Where it's like, if he hangs around for 7-8 more years, he could have been 800 goals plus.
Oh, for
easily.
Sure. Yeah.
Coming up, who has the harder record to break? Speaking of, Emmett Smith, Brett Favre, or Bruce Smith? We will tell you on the Capital PTBO Sports Show as we do Record Machine. Let's go to the National Football League. Hey, did you hear? Conference Finals is coming up this weekend, and it does not involve the Buffalo Bills.
Yes.
Mark, painful. By now, everybody has said everything about that game in particular, but as a lifelong Bills admirer, kind of got to be disappointed.
For sure.
Not just losing, but being dominated.
10 points.
And just didn't seem like a sense of urgency in the team, where I'm like, there were times where I thought, boy, you might want to crank it up here.
Yeah.
Like, I felt like they were waiting for this huge comeback. They had watched the Jaguars too much and were like, oh, no problem. We got it.
Yeah.
Cincinnati's pretty good. So you weren't going to just flip the switch. What was your reaction?
Cincinnati played a perfect ball game. Like, absolutely dominated the line of scrimmage. They ran whatever they wanted, in terms of running plays, in terms of passing. I know that, like, the Bills secondary is a bit depleted, and it continued to deplete during the course of the game. I hate to even think it, because he's such a likable guy, but maybe Josh is overrated. He's certainly not in the Joe Burrow Patrick Mahomes best in the AFC. That's a 2-horse race now. Like Josh is way back. Too many overthrown balls. Too many passes to the other team. Like it's
trying to do too much.
Yeah, maybe. The inability for them to establish the run game in relation to the way that Cincinnati dominated that way. And maybe this Joe Burrow kid is Joe Montana. Like maybe he is.
Yeah, it's really early to tell still, right?
It is, but I mean, this kid's going to go to Arrowhead, and if he wins, he's going to have ownership, fractional ownership in that club, Kansas City.
He is 3-0 against Patrick Mahomes in the NFL.
Twice in Arrowhead, though, he'll have gone into an AFC Championship game and punched his ticket to the Super Bowl. We talk about, Rodgers has a stake to claim in the Chicago Bears. That's like buying Mediterranean Avenue in Monopoly. Burrow going to Arrowhead and going undefeated is like buying Park Place. So for me, that's what it was. I didn't see any sense of urgency. That fourth quarter started, it seemed like, with the same sort of moxie as what the second one ended with, and Buffalo just nobody lit the spark. Nobody.
Is it possible? Hang with me here. I heard this on the Bill Simmons podcast, and to me it made sense. Did the Bills build a finesse team for an environment that in December and January you just need a more gritty, more Baltimore Ravens type team? Because they have some talented players. They have some flashy players, but those flashy players didn't necessarily excel in the snow and didn't necessarily excel in the windy conditions in December. And I'm just wondering if the makeup of the team is really good. If they were playing in Los Angeles in a dome stadium, it would be, wow, it's a track meet, hard to keep up with these guys. Not so much in Buffalo, and in Buffalo, you're going to get wacky weather. That's part of the charm.
Yeah.
Like Josh Allen, to me, you said doing too much, but he should have run it a lot more than he did.
26 yards.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Rushing. I just how does Devin Singletary get 6 carries in a game where it's snowing the whole time?
They abandoned the run way too soon. And you're hanging your defense out to dry on these Cincinnati plays that are going 7 minutes, 8 minutes, 9 minutes.
When Cincinnati scored to make it 14-0, I know it was still fairly early, but from that point on, I never really wavered that the Bills were any sort of threat.
Yeah, no kidding.
And they even got a little bit lucky with the Jamar Chase touchdown, field goal. Okay, cool. But just really no punch. Just no punch. And maybe Cincinnati is just that good. We'll talk about that here coming up in a second. Dak Prescott. So if Josh Allen, a little bit overrated, Dak Prescott to me is a divisional round playoff quarterback.
Yeah.
And that's what he is.
And that may be all he is.
And that's what he is.
Yeah.
You're going to see flashes. You're going to say, wow. But you needed a quarterback who was going to make some plays to beat San Francisco. And I don't know what the game plan there was by Ken Dorsey, but it was like he was watching the Jaguars too much the day before, where it's like every pass was like a receiver bubble screen.
Yeah.
Didn't help that they, obviously Pollard going down, he's their main offensive weapon, but I'm watching thinking, man, you must not have a lot of faith in this guy. And of course, he threw the 2 interceptions, but there was an opportunity where Dallas just needed a quarterback to make a big play and throw a big ball, and it just didn't happen. Didn't happen for him.
This may have been, that window may have slammed shut for Dallas. You had Pollard, who looks like he's controlled the backfield now, like he's the admiral there in the back. You're going to lose Dan Quinn.
Yes.
Mike McCarthy, even if he does stay, is going to be the punching doll. He's the punching bag now. It's going to be the entire narrative for the entire offseason. Zeke, I don't know, says he's willing to take a pay cut now to stick with the club. CeeDee Lamb, who's your number one, he obviously took a step. Do we have somebody here in the store?
I don't think so.
It's
the late show. It throws me off.
It's weird, yeah. So you've lost, like Amari Cooper, you lost him. You made CeeDee Lamb the number one, and then Lamb produces. Everybody else produced except for...
No, it's so true.
Dak.
it's a weird no man's land of McCarthy and Dak aren't quite bad enough to get rid of, but they're not good enough to bring you a championship.
Right.
It's like Phillip Rivers.
Sort of.
Yeah, great analogy. Absolutely. Yeah, Phillip Rivers, very much so.
How much did the Eagles impress you, and how much was just, I mean, the Giants were just never in that game. Talk about a game where 5 minutes in, I thought, ooh.
It's like 28-0 at one point.
The Giants are going for a 4th and 8 on like the first drive of the game because they know they can't stop Philadelphia.
Right.
And the big wild card was, can Jalen Hurts play? He still looked a little timid. He didn't look like he wanted to get contact. But that being said, I mean, that was a well-oiled machine against a division rival. And I thought that game was going to be a lot closer, but it just was not.
I think Hurts, they could have taken him off the field way early. Like that, they were in control the entire time. That's a different ball team. A.J. Brown is for real. I don't have any sort of faith in Philadelphia, and I said that last week and got punished for it. We'll see what they've got this weekend, but that Giants team, great story. Don't take away from anything from this season. All season they were terrific, and then they come out and say that they're going to pass on the player option or the team option on Jones. So maybe that experiment's over. Maybe it's just a way for trying to get them back or get him back on a 1 year cheaper. Who knows? But the Eagles are well oiled. They're ready.
Brock Purdy.
Jeepers, this story's
Mr.
good, isn't
Irrelevant,
it?
Last player picked in the draft. This would be, if you pitch this, if they go on to win the Super Bowl as like a Hollywood script, it would sort of be not even the Kurt Warner script, but close.
Yeah.
Except this guy only had, 5 games coming into the playoffs.
Sure.
He's undefeated.
Undefeated.
You start thinking about some of the rags to riches quarterbacks who hit big and won the Super Bowl. I mean, the list is very small.
Very.
Doug Williams, Jeff Hostetler, Trent Dilfer.
These are way better stories than those.
Yeah.
I mean, Doug throwing 5 touchdowns in the second quarter was
pretty cool.
Pretty rad, but
I keep wanting to not believe in San Francisco, but they're just so good around him. And Shanahan, look, he's not done well in some big spots. He was the Falcons offensive coordinator when they lost the 28-3 lead.
Yeah.
He had a 10-point fourth quarter lead against Kansas City in the fourth quarter in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So there's been circumstances where you've been like, I'm not sure how good you are. But he just wins, and what he's been able to do to insulate Brock, because it's not like Brock Purdy's going out there and throwing lasers here.
No.
But he's protecting him, and it's easy to do when you've got Deebo Samuel and Christian McCaffrey. But he's putting him in a position to say, okay, as long as you don't turn it over, we're going to give you a good chance to win.
Is that the way that this story finishes? If San Fran even gets to the Super Bowl and happens to win or lose, there's a lot of weapons on this club, and not to take anything away from Purdy because the guy's been terrific, but he's doing enough. He's not making mistakes.
Yeah,
he's not beating himself. They've got between Kittle is the ultimate insurance policy, maybe behind Kelsey. Ayuk and Debo and McCaffrey. Like, there's a ton of offensive weapons. You don't have to worry about the defensive side of the ball. When you're only allowing the other team 12 points, you're going to win most ball games.
Yeah.
Where's the NFC Championship game? Is it in Philly?
Yes.
Yeah.
Tough environment. The Link.
Oh, and the fans will just be wild.
Yeah, you're not in San Fran anymore. It's going to be cold.
It's good. Yeah, and the fans won't be. They won't be happy. They'll be wild.
I want to go back to something you said, which is Arrowhead as being this so difficult place to go.
Mythical.
Loud.
Yeah.
I'm going to dispel that myth right now.
Sure.
I think it's a little bit overrated. I think it's a cool environment. I think the fans are into it. But I also think going back the last couple of years, have they just not lost at Arrowhead a bunch in the playoffs? I mean, even last year, blow a big lead.
Yeah.
They blew a big lead to Tennessee and Marcus Mariota one year. They lost at home to the Patriots
Mariota,
in overtime. I feel like they've lost a lot of playoff games at Arrowhead. And the point I'm making there is that it's not an environment that should bother Joe Burrow.
No.
It just shouldn't.
Was there big comeback against the Bills? Was that at Arrowhead?
Yeah, yes.
The 13 seconds?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That definitely was at Arrowhead.
Yeah.
So even that one you almost lose.
Yeah.
Not like this insurmountable Brett Favre never loses at Lambeau type thing.
Sure.
But right now, I mean, we're not a high ankle sprain from Mahomes. That's concerning when you're going against a team like Cincinnati. I'm just curious if Like, who's the better quarterback right now, Joe Burrow or Patrick Mahomes? Burrow's at least in the convo now.
Has to be now.
Has to be.
No going back. No going back. Mahomes still has the element of the unknown. Joe Burrow has absolute ice water in his veins.
Like,
for sure.
if you look up how to play the position of quarterback, you get Joe Burrow, traditional. Yes. Mahomes, what makes him the MVP is that he can do things and think outside the box.
Right.
Probably
he can
better than
sidearm
any
at
quarterback.
25 yards.
Right. Or
yeah,
he can
flip here.
Yeah,
whatever.
he can jump 2 feet in the air and just throw it over the guy's head for a touchdown.
It's going to be fun.
Yeah.
I think divisional round was somewhat disappointing with the quality of the games that we saw.
Mm-hmm.
It was going to be difficult to follow the wild card weekend.
Yeah.
But I think ultimately we got the 4 best teams
I would agree.
and the best matchups.
Yeah.
So I also read more to come on this, but Roger Goodell is considering the idea of doing neutral site games for the title games.
I don't mind this idea.
You like it.
I don't mind it. I don't think I like it.
I don't like it.
I think there should still be a reward for a number one. You know, in a league where you don't necessarily, like in every sport, you're the number one, you get the home field.
Yeah.
I mean, what other possible advantage could you have given Kansas City had they played Buffalo? We're going to reward you with a trip to Atlanta. Oh. You don't get the ball first? Like, you don't, you know, if it was something like the coins, even that is so marginal. It, you know.
Here's why I would not like it, and it goes back to the conversation we just had, which is there are certain teams that are built to succeed in certain environments.
Mm-hmm.
So now all of a sudden you take the 2000 Baltimore Ravens and you put them in a dome stadium against the St. Louis Rams. Maybe it's a different story because it becomes a track meet.
Sure.
I like the weather being a bit of a neutralizer at times. And you remove that unless you're going to say, oh, no, we'll still do neutral site games where there might be snow and rain. But I doubt that would be the case because they'd want it to become almost like a tourist attraction.
Aside from the year they did the Super Bowl in New York,
Yeah.
where they absolutely lucked out with the weather, it was like
And a clunky game.
in a clunky game for sure. I kind of like the neutral zone thing, or the neutral game. I always liked for the Super Bowl. I didn't like the idea of New Orleans even getting a shot to host it, or New York or anything like that. I just think that the number one should get a true reward, and the true reward's got to be you get to play at home.
I hate neutral site games. Like I'm talking about the Super Bowl too, and I don't like it for the Grey Cup. I get it because you have to promote it for so long, but it's Super Bowl. It's going to sell out in the 2 weeks when you figure out where it is.
I guess but what do you do if both the number ones, like if Kansas City and Philadelphia both win, you know, and you are like, how do you determine who's going to get the game?
Have 40 tiebreakers. Like,
yeah, that's true. I guess I don't know if I'd want to get into a tie-breaking scenario.
It's such an event.
Yeah, you've got to have 6 months planning.
You need the legwork for it.
It's like imagine if they did the World Series at a neutral site. It would be weird.
But there's a reason why the crowd is always timid, and it's not the ruckus crowd that you're going to get in one of these environments. But I've learned to accept that.
In LA with the Rams playing, it seemed like a neutral crowd because, you know, a lot of Rams fans weren't buying tickets 6 months ahead of time.
They're also the Quebec Nordiques of that state, right? Like nobody cares about and all the guys sitting in the lower bowl are all $30,000 seats, and they're all eating escargot. Like they're not football guys.
Miscellaneous topics. We got a few to hit here. Scott Rolen,
yes,
just the 18th third baseman ever to make the Baseball Hall of Fame. That is the least among all positions.
Yeah, strange.
Which is very strange.
Yeah.
So it's not a position that gets a lot of love.
No.
Are you okay with Scott Rolen being in the Hall of Fame? And will he wear a Blue Jays hat?
He won't wear a Jays hat for sure. He's going in, I'm sure, St. Louis.
One of the last men that I associate with the Black Jays era when they used to wear those black jerseys.
Yeah. I don't know, 2,000 games at third base, Akel gloves. Like he's in kind of like the pantheon of the Brooks Robinsons, and his jaws is good. Like the metric they use for Hall of Famers, his WAR is good. It's not great. Like Alex's is great. His WAR is great. His jaws are great. His numbers, 696 homers. Like these are all great, but we know why he doesn't get in.
Yeah.
I don't.
A-Rod is who you're referring to.
A-Rod, yeah. Who did I say?
Alex, which is his name, but it just came off very casual.
Yeah, right. Like Alex and I are boys. I don't know. This is a Hall of Very Good for me. The ballot was super weak.
When you look at the ballot, I think you're going to get a lot of Hall of Very Goods.
Yes, you're in that era now. Carlos Beltran, Todd Hundley. Holy smokes.
Now, is there something like third base, and I'm not a big baseball guy.
Yeah.
Is that not the toughest infield position, or is it shortstop?
Well, catcher would be, but
anyone can catch a ball.
yeah, but the longevity of the career.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, your longevity at third base is what makes it tough, and you do see a lot of third basemen that make that transition, particularly to first. Cal went from third to short.
Yes, if you're asking like on a technical level, like shortstop would be a more difficult position to play than
I
third
guess
base,
so.
just because you have more range, more ground to cover, and all that. But that being said, considering the sport's 150 years old and it goes back to the 1936 class for the Baseball Hall of Fame, just 18 third basemen. That's pretty remarkable to think. The only ones that I could conjure up an argument for, Todd Helton. I think we've sort of gotten rid of the myth of once Larry Walker broke the seal of Coors Field guys.
Sure.
Because Todd Helton had a pretty good run for about 4 or 5 years that was almost unparalleled, like in that particular era. I think he, again, going up against all these steroid guys, like he put up good numbers, but they weren't like 60 home run numbers.
That's right.
So it hurts him a little bit.
Sure.
Maybe Billy Wagner. I mean, we're still, putting our toe in the pool of relief pitchers, but he has better overall relief pitcher numbers than Bruce Sutter, Raleigh Fingers. Both of them are in the Hall of Fame.
Mm-hmm.
He's a top 15 reliever by any metric ever and fairly consistent. So if you want to go reliever, the one that I'm always, and there's a huge groundswell of support for, is Andruw Jones.
Yes.
Who was a really good, and, defensive metrics suggest he's probably the greatest
That's right.
center fielder. So if you put stock in defense, I also would point out that he would be the second worst overall batting average to be in the Hall of Fame at 254. There's one guy at 253 from like the 30s.
Wow.
Was a catcher. But you got a 254 and I think only a 337 on base
that's
percentage.
Soft jeepers.
But how much do you say, well, Ozzie Smith too, but
Yeah, that's true.
and this guy did hit a lot of home runs. I think he had a terrible, I'm trying to think of a hockey parallel, but he was a Hall of Famer leaving Atlanta. And then like the rest of his career was just like 1 year he only hit 3 homers.
Very pedestrian. Yeah.
Andrew.
Yeah.
I saw Joey Votto was given a lot of love on Instagram today. Makes me very happy.
Andruw Jones?
No,
Or just in general?
No, for the third baseman.
Oh, Scott Rolen.
Scott Rolen, yeah. Giving him a lot of
They
love.
were boys. Cincinnati.
WWE celebrated its 30th anniversary. Mark, you can turn your microphone off. Matt, I'll give you 45 seconds to give us a little bit of a review here.
WWE celebrates their past a lot. Like, they had a DX reunion a few months ago, an Undertaker thing a few months ago. So the 30th anniversary of Raw did huge numbers, like 2.6 million viewers. But I mean, for me, it was like I see this every couple months now.
Undertaker comes back as Biker Taker and
The American Badass.
not under like the Dead Man Undertaker. Offended a lot of people. I'm of the opinion that I like Biker Taker more.
This is your worst wrestling take, is that you just like Undertaker not as a dead guy.
Yeah.
It's enough.
All right.
Everyone came back. DX came back. IRS was there. APA. Everyone
IRS?
you expect to. Oh, yeah.
Irwin R.
Shyster was there?
Well, his son's on the roster. So it makes sense.
Mike
Is he
Rotundo.
still in good shape?
No. No. Like Ron Simmons was on yesterday. I'm like, oh, Ron's looking old.
Pay your taxes. Irwin R. Shyster.
Yeah.
Well, that was his bit. Was they had a backstage poker game last night, and he came and took all the money and left a $1 bill for the winner.
Oh, jeez.
Okay, I like it.
All right, let's do Record Machine. It's going to be football themed. For those of you turning in for the first time, Record Machine is I pick 3 borderline impossible records to break, and we decide which of them is actually the most likely to be broken.
Right.
Here we go, gentlemen. Which of these records is most likely to fall? Brett Favre, 336 career interceptions. Emmitt Smith, 4,409 carries. Or Bruce Smith, 200 career sacks.
Yeah.
All of these, I should point out, there's no active player within screaming distance
How many sacks?
of any of them. 200.
Yeah, so my initial thought went to I'm not sure that anybody, like, Smith's carrying numbers of 4,400. I mean, you've got to have longevity. You've got to be a workhorse real early and for a real long time.
And you have to have a coach that has that game plan.
That's right. That's got to be the basis of your offense. So, and we've seen a lot of guys that, have carried the ball a ton. I think if you go back to look at LaDainian Tomlinson's numbers early in San Diego, but once he hits 30, goes to the New York Jets, like it's over. The seal's broken on you when you're a 30-year-old running back in the NFL. So my initial thought is Emmitt Smith at 4,400. You got to play 20 seasons at 220 carries, and you're still short. Mm-hmm. That's a big one. Bruce Smith at 200 sacks, 19 seasons. We talked about it at the pregame, like his Washington Redskin Dan Snyder era was horrendous. But I mean, Bruce was also, he's the benefactor of a good Bills defensive line for a long time. Would have got a fair amount of double coverage. I think he's third. I think Brett's 336 is second. I think Bruce's 200 can be easily. It's the easiest of the three to beat.
I think Emmett's never being broken. Like we just saw Frank Gore stick around forever, and he's still like 600 short.
Who's the active?
Short.
Like, is there anyone even with 2,000 carries?
Yeah,
maybe Derrick Henry would probably be.
Yeah, there's going to be a guy that's going to be a wash up. He's going to be a backup somewhere.
Let me see if I can find
the Steve DeBerg of running backs.
I'm going to say Brett Favre's interception total is unbreakable.
I mean, that's just because Jameis Winston's not in the league anymore.
But you make my point, which is people don't ho-hum interceptions anymore.
That's true.
There was an era where it's like, oh, Vinny Testaverde, 30 interceptions, who cares? He's our starter next year.
Yeah, right.
And he played forever.
Yeah, Peyton threw 40, no big deal.
Brett Favre, 336. The next closest, George Blanda, who, by the way, played 26 years.
Yeah.
277. Like, what, 59 less?
Yeah.
That's a lot.
And Blanda looks like he's twice Brett's age.
Three awful seasons.
So back to rushing. Carries. Ezekiel Elliott's number one right now at 1,881.
Yeah, like you're not even 2,000.
You're 2.5 times away.
Adrian Peterson at 3,230.
Yeah.
Wow, and he's
the last of a breed too, right?
For sure he is.
Walter
yeah,
Payton's
Jerome
second.
Bettis probably up there.
Frank Gore's third.
Right.
At 37-35.
Tom Brady, active leader in interceptions, and he's played forever. 212.
Different quarterback though, right? Like Brett is
not a gunslinger.
Right.
If you want to go past Brady, Matt Ryan, 183. My thing is
Matt Ryan at 183. Holy, that makes me rethink things. Because I feel like Matty Ice hasn't thrown a touchdown in 3 years. Like he's only thrown 40 picks. Wow.
I'm going to say it's that because, again, you have 2 years where you throw 20 interceptions, you're out the door, and you're not playing anymore.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you're just totally gone.
The game has changed.
It's changed exponentially in that regard, and quarterbacks are better now. I think if, just off the top of my head, the leading interception leader this year had 15? 16.
Yeah.
Not a lot. Mm-hmm. There's going to be a time in a few years where the leader probably has 12, 11.
Poof. Jeepers.
Throw 2 in a game, you're on the bench next week.
It's like completion percentage. Joe Montana would lead the league at like 59%. Now there's like 18 quarterbacks who are better than 59%. It's just the evolution of the position. So I'm going to go Brett Favre and then Emmitt Smith and then Bruce Smith. Although I don't think any of these three would do it. Mano y Mano challenge.
Here we go.
Reverting back to traditional format here, and we got to speed up a little bit. So if you take too long, I'm going to buzz you.
We had 9 minutes.
Okay.
We got 4 questions pertaining to the history of the AFC title game. 4 questions going after the NFC title game.
It's going to be over in 2 minutes.
Let's do it.
All right.
Which team has the most AFC title game appearances with 16?
They've had 3 coaches in the last, maybe in their history, actually.
You're dunking on them right now.
New England Patriots?
No. Close. No cigar.
Pittsburgh Steelers.
It is. Pedestrian 8-8 record.
8-8. Wow.
Yeah. What team has the most victories without a loss in a title game, AFC title game?
The most victories without a loss. This can't be very many.
3.
Oh, sure.
But what do you mean? Oh, sure.
Yeah, because well,
What? Hold on. Pump the brakes.
maybe I'll just give it to them.
The Cincinnati Bengals.
Yeah.
Correct. They just mentioned it this week.
I'm the greatest.
Yes, you are.
Most points scored single game, 51.
Oh my gosh. Give me an in-house.
The score of this game was 51 to 3.
Oh.
Oh,
You
yeah.
can give me the year, and I'm probably still not getting it.
1990 season. The game took place in January 91.
Oof.
I don't know,
Good
man.
times.
The Bills.
Yes.
Get out of here.
Come on.
What do you
I'm
mean?
up 2-1. I'm up 2-1.
I should have. What do you mean? I knew it was Buffalo. I watched it. It was 11.
I don't know.
Who is the only current team to never have played in an AFC title game?
Cleveland Browns.
That's incorrect.
They've been there a couple times.
Ugh,
Against Denver back in the day.
I
Okay.
ditched that team. I don't know.
The only one that's not played in a AFC title game. Oh, it's hard as you start running through the teams really quick here.
The music doesn't help either.
It's just building up
I
the...
can't remember these guys in one. But I feel like they did. Jacksonville Jaguars.
They have.
Lost.
2 different times.
They beat the Patriots in the divisional round, right?
They lost to the Patriots in a game not too
AFC
long ago,
title.
2017. Blake Bortles.
Oh, Bortles.
And they made it way back in the day in the mid-90s, I believe.
With Brunel?
Maybe fact check me on that one. But either way, they did make it to it. I'm going to go with the Houston Texans. They've only ever made the divisional round.
Bums. Still up 2-1.
All right,
Okay.
NFC.
Get
Flipping
outta
the
here.
script here. Largest margin of victory, 41. What team won 41 to nothing?
Oh,
Dallas Cowboys. Yeehaw.
the cover of Sports Illustrated with a New York Giants receiver going in on a Minnesota Viking, 41-0.
Monty Toomer, maybe.
It could have been a Monty Toomer, but it was a Tuma for Minnesota and Dante Culpepper. That was like the beginning of the end for Dennis Green and the Vikes.
The unraveling.
Yeah.
All right, we're tied 2-2.
Most common matchup in an NFC title game. These two teams have met 6 different times.
San Fran, Dallas.
I mean, just that easy.
Wow.
It's like stump the
I knew it was
Schwab.
Dallas and somebody. I was going to guess Green Bay.
I had to do that to assert my dominance, get back at 3 games to 2
The only
now.
team ever to get shut out twice in an NFC title game in the 1978 season and again in 1985 season is who? Getting blanked.
They got blanked twice.
Yes.
78 and 85.
I don't know. The Philadelphia Eagles.
78 and 85.
I have another guess.
Yeah.
Washington.
What? What
Not
do you
Washington.
mean 2 guesses?
You got to hurry. He said he was going to buzz you.
Detroit Lions. 78, that's a terrible guess.
Just because I like humble pie, the LA Rams.
The Rams.
Yeah.
Well, it would have been St. Louis Rams.
Last question here.
Okay.
No, they're in LA.
Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah. They went back and forth.
What 2 teams have the largest droughts without appearing in an NFC title game, both of which currently sits at 29 years?
I know this. So now I get to 4. I know this. Both teams competed in the 1991 NFL playoffs. Both teams lost and have never been back.
I have to guess both of them to tie it?
Yes.
Okay. Hold on. Let me go through my brain here.
I want to write down the winner, though. I win this game. It's 4-2. I told
Washington
you
one
the
of them?
facts.
Washington is one of them.
Okay.
This doesn't count if he gets the other one.
No.
It's going to be played under protest.
Listen to this.
Look, I'm going to put them right
Is the other
here.
one the
P to
country
the
of
camera.
Norway?
Yeah, exactly.
Tune in next week. Washington's one of them.
Yeah.
This is hurting me.
I'm buzzing you.
No, hold on a minute.
Oh, all of a
this
sudden
guy just
now.
got 2.5 minutes to think.
All of a sudden
And
now
I'm getting
it's a
two-parter?
thing.
I'm getting a two-parter?
I already got the 2-parter. I wrote it right down.
I'm just blanking on every NFC team now. Yeah, I don't know. Who's the other one?
The Wayne Fonts Watch. Scott Mitchell and Barry Sanders featuring the Detroit Lions.
Yes.
Yes, the Lions.
Their lone playoff win in 7 years came against Dallas
That's right.
in the divisional rounds. Well done.
Damn.
Well done.
The Lions. The Lions also, I think, they're the longest for an NFC championship, like, period. They're closing in on like 60 years or something.
And they're also the only team never to host an NFC title game because they played that one on the road.
That's right.
Local shout-outs.
Let's
got some
go.
local sports shout-outs. John Epping, you know that name? Professional curler?
Let me tell you a thing about John Epping.
Yeah.
His grandfather started the Ennismore Curling Club. Mom, avid curler. Dad, beauty. Billy, you know you are. Billy, Century 21 United. Shout out, beauty.
Competing at the Ontario Tankard and doing well.
Yeah, good for him. John Epping.
Owen Beck and Brendan Othman of the Peterborough Petes, honored by Mayor Jeff Leal and City Council earlier this week.
Yeah, they got a picture in the horseshoe there.
Yeah.
Way to go, fellas.
Junior A Lakers draft. Keep these names in mind. Matthew Dimmy and Owen Rice. Those were 2 draft picks for the Junior A. It'd be nice to see the Junior A Lakers come back a bit. I feel like the program's been on a bit of a downswing.
I've got a beautiful Junior A Lakers jersey here in the store before they had a sponsor. Like 1 year when they didn't have a sponsor. I think Scott Arnold played for that team.
Maybe.
96 Junior A.
Last but not least here, we'll go back to the Petes. Do you know the name Cam Lizotte? Remember that name?
I remember
A
this
few
name.
years ago?
6-7 years ago?
Cam Lizotte has gone into the world of fashion, and the company that he either runs or works for designed the Hockey Day in Canada jacket that Ron McLean was wearing.
What?
And I give credit to Mike Davies of the Peterborough Examiner for uncovering this.
Wait a second.
Yeah.
Hang on, big fella here. Cam Lizotte designed it, and this is like, I mean, no disrespect, Cam. I'm not exactly on the high fashion side of things.
You didn't like it?
Sitting in a sports apparel store.
Did you see it?
No.
We could put a graphic up, and we can show Ronnie about it. Like, we'll show the people at home if you miss it on Saturday. It's got something like on the jacket here. Like, I thought it was like a battery pack. It's red and yellow and black, and Ronnie's wearing an unfavorable pair of slacks with it.
It's fashion. You wouldn't get it.
Ron didn't.
It's like art. Like you see art, you don't quite ever understand.
It's a lot of fun episode here.
Cut my
gentlemen.
ear off.
You've been listening to the Capital PTBO Sports Show and MNC Podcast Production simulcast on your TV, Peterborough, Lindsay. You can visit us at the store, 370 George Street North, or online anytime at thecapitalptbo.ca. Major thank you to our good friend Brian Goldfinger Personal Injury Law, for Mark Million and producer Matthew Latour. I'm Jordan Mercier. We will talk again next week.